Wanted so desperately to be married, and so she said, she got up and said this, that I tried to be everything every man I dated wanted me to be because I wanted to be married. She said, I'm 40 now and I'm still not married. Tears flowing. And then another sister, a well-known attorney, talked about how she suffered from depression and then one night had too much alcohol and ended up in bed with someone that she didn't know. She said nothing happened. I don't know, you know, but I don't know, but that wasn't the point. The point is she bared her soul. And people said that this happened on the last day of the conference, but they wished that it had happened on the first day. They said because we were wearing our masks all week, bullshitting each other. I encourage you to share part of who you are with somebody else. Recently, Monique, we did an event, we started something called The Healing Starts With Us. It was Monique, Denzel, John Amos, Terrie McMillan, and two actors from The Wire. Monique was reading a story of someone in the book, Black Pain, It Just Looks Like We're Not Hurting, about a judge who suffered from depression. And she spoke about the fact that she had an underlying sadness all the time. So Monique is reading that story, and then her voice cracks, and she stops because it's going to take a minute for her to compose herself. She gets through it, but she comes back at the end when we encourage people to share their testimonies, and she said, you know, I didn't know where you were going with this talking thing, but when I was reading that sister's story, it made me think about the underlying sadness I've always had. But because I come from a generation of people who had no money, and all of a sudden I have some, I had this feeling of sadness, but I didn't think I deserved to be sad because God had given me so much. And so she said, and I used to go home after a show and sit in the dark by myself. She said her husband said to her one day, you know, we got to get you some help because we can't handle this by ourselves. And so she spoke about the fact that she's in therapy once a week now. And it's the best thing she ever did. She said this is not a white woman's disease. It does not discriminate. And so she's better today. And I want to just encourage you, and Alicia Keys has spoken about how she had to go off to Egypt for a period of time, felt like she was just losing her mind, too much pressure. We're the strong ones, the ones that everybody else goes to. And you heard the statistics about where we are, but part of the reason that we have those horrific statistics is because we internalize stuff. It's sitting in here inside and it's eating us up and killing us and making us ill. Right. Got to let that stuff out. When you don't talk about the stuff that ails you, when you don't talk about the pain that we inherit, all of us inherit from our parents. Oh, we love them. They're wonderful people, but they're hurting too, and they haven't talked about their stuff, so they pass that on to us. And hurting people hurt people. So they might call you out of your name. You're too light, you're too dark, I didn't get to do this, so you're going to do this. And then you go to school and people call you out of your name. And you never ever have the opportunity to talk about how that made you feel. So day after day, you just keep adding on pressures, and then when you don't deal with your stuff, we self-medicate. Drugs, alcohol, food, promiscuous, unprotected sex, shopping when we don't have no money, gambling, working 24/7, and the violence that we see in our communities every day. We're taking each other out every day. We are dying. Don't even know what to call it. We don't know how to start the conversation. We gotta start the conversation. My family did not know until a month before I shared my story in Essence magazine what I was going through. 10,000 people were reached out. Girl walking down my street. Best friends don't know, family members don't know that I'm suffering from depression. And we don't know how to say that we're hurting. It's really time that we speak about this. When I spoke about us being the strong ones, you know, it's funny, I went to a local nail salon not too long ago after a friend of mine had passed away, so I was very, very tearful. And so I knew I was going to be crying off and on, so I just said to the salon owner, you know, a friend died and kind of going through this. She said, oh no, you can't cry. You know, they're Koreans. She said, oh no, you're strong, you can't cry. I used to see you with your, basically with your mask on. I'm like, I can't even go to a freaking nail salon. on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. I want to read something real quickly to you from the book. Many of us mask our depression with this attitude of got it all under control. Deep feelings of grief continue without stopping because they don't fit into our schedule. So we get mad because we tell ourselves we can't feel sad. And when people see that many of us are hyper-irritable, which is a symptom of depression, they mistakenly call us evil. In fact, many of us are just evil, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. In fact, many of us are depressed and exhausted. How sad but true. Many of us act out our pain, yet don't believe we're entitled to feel it, much less address it. Wouldn't it be better to know why we feel irritable and negative, why we may be hurting the feelings of those around us, than to continue to live with a feeling of low-grade misery? I think the answer is yes, but of course that's easier said than done. Because for generations, black women's pain threshold has been simply too high. We've been taught to minimize our problems, take on more than we can handle, always put ourselves last, and never slow down, because maybe if we're running, we won't fall. Although this strength has often been the backbone of the black family, it has also meant that we are unable to recognize we've reached our emotional breaking point and we're just stressed the hell out. What I know is that you will die trying to be Superwoman or Superman. That's what I know. And you keep saying, well, I don't have time to go talk to a therapist, or I don't have time to do for myself, as you know, putting that oxygen mask over your own mouth first. One day the mask will crack. That's what I want to let you know, because it happened to me. And there are times when it's just really, really painful for me to recount it, but I know that it's necessary because so many of us feel like we're standing on the ledge by ourselves. We got to share our stories with each other. I wanted to share something with you for those of you, well, just as you move through your lives and your work life. I read an article about how black men have to quietly combat stereotypes. And it was really interesting that if you're a big, tall black man in corporate America, you have a booming voice, you lower it so that you are less intimidating. You smile extra. You might stand differently so that you don't intimidate others. There's a brother who wears suits on weekends when he travels because he knows that it's more acceptable. You know what I mean? And if you're a dark-skinned black man, or woman, you're even more intimidating. So I know a brother who works at the New York Times who says that he literally feels more acceptable when he walks down the street with his yoga mat under his arm. Then there's a brother who doesn't ski, but he's got a ski rack on the top of his car. we laugh, but it's those shifts. They have a very, very profound impact on our psyche, and we think that it's just rolling off our backs when it's killing us. Vivian and I were just talking. Her beautiful specimen of a husband died of heart attack at the age of 45. Stress. She can tell you more about it, but I'm saying stress. Oh, we look good, but what's going on inside? And then when I was reading that article, made me think about it. If I'm flagging a taxi, I live in New York City. If it's at night, if I have a baseball cap on, I literally go through this. I take the cap off, hope that I have long earrings so that they don't mistake me for a brother, okay? Hope I have my New York...